Hello, good morning, and welcome to AutoTalk Live. This time, live from Beijing, China. Yes, we made it through the Great Wall of Internet using a cleverly rigged round of VPNs, and I think I'm talking to you via Hong Kong today. So hopefully the timing of this will come out right because I had to set the timing around. It's a long story.
But it works.
So yes, it does. And so with me today is my usual cohort, Mr. Graham McDonald. How are you doing, Graham?
Oh, I'm coming from the exotic wild. I mean, you're just in Beijing. I'm living La Vida Loca. I'm in the wilds of West Auckland this morning, enjoying every minute of it.
Fantastic. Now, while I tell people why I'm here, quickly jump on your phone and Google a Mutts Cuts Hot Wheels. Apparently, someone was telling me on this trip that they've released one and it's the next big thing. You don't know, if you can't remember what Mutts Cuts is, it's the van from Dumb and Dumber. It's shaped like a furry dog.
Oh, yes. Okay, now I get it. Richard sent this to me as a DM during the weekend, and I'm scratching my head. Now I get it, and yes, I have seen photos of it. And if you've seen them there, Mr. Edwards, I know it's in your bag on the way home.
I haven't seen one yet. I've seen them on eBay for quite a large amount of money, but yes.
Yes, yeah. Would you believe it? Hot Wheels are releasing a version of the Mutts Cuts vehicle out of Dumb and Dumber. This is how low we sink.
Yes, yeah. It's not low. Look, Anyway.
Meanwhile, in breaking news.
What am I doing in Beijing? We are here. I'm here thanks to the team at Amoda. JQ, thanks Sheldon and Serene and the rest of you for getting me up here. And we're up here for what is a massive international brand kind of event that they're doing. It started yesterday at the Beijing Auto Show. I think next week or on our video YouTube channel as well, we'll have a whole lot more content out of here. Unfortunately, literally being human and trying to process all this thing at once means we won't have anything massively about it today. For the Amoda and JQ brands really, or cheering that, they do it every year. And to give an idea of growth, last year they had 700 people here from around the world. This year it's 3,000, which just made, and it seems like all the brands are doing a similar thing at the same time. So they've got 3,000 here, BYD had 1,000, all these other brands had a whole pile of people. And it just makes it massive. In fact, it made it really difficult yesterday. We went to the Beijing Auto Show. And Auto Show media and company guest days are usually pretty restrained and efficient. You know, you have a relatively modest group. You move from stand to stand, you launch things. Absolutely impossible yesterday. It was, I would call it mayhem, slightly controlled mayhem. But I mean, to the point where the shows were being pushed back, there were just that many people, and I suspect they might maybe tighten things up in future years. But I got to say, some of the vehicles coming out of China, and some of the brands which I've seen, and we'll discuss it later, with potential for the New Zealand market, it's just huge, and the quality of the vehicles I've seen so far has been incredibly surprising. And there's some cool stuff out there that I think would work really well for the New Zealand market. Even if we just talk within the Chery brand, you know, we looked at the JQ J7 and J8, and the J8 is a car that I would most closely approximate to being, I wouldn't say almost up there with an Audi Q7, but not far off it, and similar levels of luxury. And it feels, as I've said, if anyone's watched my review of the Motor E5 on our EVs and Beyond YouTube channel, the quality of that car is really good. The build quality is not that far from the Japanese and Koreans. In fact, probably ahead of some of them in material choices. So they're talking about the J8, this 3-row big SUV, petrol SUV, though there'll be a plug-in hybrid version. A car you could theoretically look at and say, yeah, this is high-end European fit out and stuff. It's going to be Mitsubishi Outlander money. So, and look, these guys aren't coming softly. They are going to go for the New Zealand market, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with brands like this over the few years. I've bumped into a few dealers already. Andy Sinclair, who, of course, these days runs the Winger Group. He's here with a few others. They're obviously up here looking at what they've signed on to. So we're here. We've done that yesterday. We're here. We're having a bit of a look around Beijing today. And then we're off to Woohoo, the home of a motor, where they've got another kind of brand event. We get to drive some of the cars. Should be really interesting. We've got to keep nagging some people here for some additional brands. There's brands up here that we need in New Zealand, like iCar, which is a electric brand, and the cars are basically kind of mini G-Wagons, all electric mini G-Wagons, starting from like a 5-door Jimny size thing all the way heading up. It's part of the Cherry group as well. And here, that entry-level electric one, it starts, I think, at about $20,000 US. So about $35,000 by the time you land it, you direct connect, convert. About $50,000 by the time you actually look at it, by the time you put margins on for New Zealand. But some of the stuff here, you think of China as maybe cheap hatchbacks or cheap SUVs. These guys are trying to out testosterone the Americans. Some of the stuff they're coming up with is just crazy. If I have a look at this, I'll see if I can show my phone to the camera and see if that'll work. How's that? Oh, let's try and hide that. How's that for a... You see that, Graham?
Yeah, I can see that. Yep, it's coming through.
Look at that for a macho vehicle. Plug-in hybrid, big off-roader. They've got, it's just crazy. If we look at what else is floating around, where are we?
This is like Richard's holiday snaps coming to you live.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I didn't get the technology sorted out beforehand because I'm a bit of an idiot. But sorry, this is the interior of this JQ that's coming to New Zealand. That is supposedly going to be Outlander money.
Yeah, you don't get so much of a sense looking at that photo there. I think it's one of those things you've got to actually be there to see it.
Yeah,
it looks nice. It looks nice from here.
Yes. Well, everyone wants a leg rest. So, have I got a picture of the? I don't. Oh, the Jet Tour. Jet Tour is a brand that needs to come to New Zealand. Again, basically Land Rover Defender style vehicles, but plug-in hybrids. Macho man. Yeah, Jet Tour, or Jetour, Jet Tour.
Jet Tour, okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like a budget Air New Zealand flight then?
No. Now, I will show one vehicle that they still say that it is under evaluation for New Zealand. This is the JAC Hunter electric ute. And the interesting thing about this is, some might go, oh, it's just another, electric converted thing with a weird system like the LDV ET60. It's not. It's a far more developed vehicle. It's four-wheel drive, unlike the two-wheel drive in the LDV, and it doesn't have an electric motor hanging off the back diff pumpkin. I know this because I shoved my camera underneath the car. Proper finished tray on it, all ready to go. That's hopefully something that they'll get down to New Zealand soon. So look, that's a few things from there. We'll have some more video and actual proper content next week once I've had a chance to download the camera and work on it.
So just a quick question. Yeah. A quick question while you're there, Richard, because you've obviously spent the day at the show yesterday. Is I suppose the thrust of the tech there EV at the show, or is there still plenty of buzz and hype around conventional ICE and or hybrid product there as well? I mean, I know you've gone there.
I actually think outside of the EV dedicated brands, so outside of Zeekr and BYD, even BYD's had probably more PHEVs on their stand than electric vehicles. PHEV certainly is the buzz. Long range PHEV. PHEVs that'll do 100 plus kilometers on electric, and then we'll do 1,000 plus kilometers on the open road. It seems that the Chinese do not want to stop at gas stations. But still like the idea of gas. So lots of PHEV product coming. So the tweak in PHEV ruck definitely has been, I think, a good thing for the Chinese market. Motor JQ seem to be leaning more into starting off with just plain petrol motors, just getting their footing with that. But the PHEV stuff is certainly absolutely on the way. But we'll learn more about the next few days. Sorry, my voice is a bit croaky after all day yesterday. It's certainly been an impressive show. Look, it was so big and so busy. We only got through, I think, about 2.5 of 5 halls. So we didn't see the European stuff. Didn't see the Toyotas. We've seen some interesting cars on the road here. In fact, we saw probably more interesting cars on the road here than in the show almost. A few brands here which are clearly doing really well. ArcFox.
Whoops, and with that, we lost Mr. Edwards there for a second. I don't know where he's gone, which is the joys of having a VPN network. The reliability of it is not always necessarily to be trusted. So while Richard's busily figuring out getting back on live again, I can talk to you for a tick. But I was just going to make a point in Richard's absence that back in the mid-late 2000s, we used to travel to the Tokyo Motor Show and watch the finest of Japan's manufacturers coming on through. Richard's trying to get back in there again for a second. But I was going to say, it was interesting that at that point in time, there were hordes and hordes and hordes of Chinese students and technicians and engineers coming to the Tokyo Motor Show. And they all had intense missions to study a particular component in a new release. And we had, for example, there'd be the door handle people or the door hinge people. And their sole mission was to take 50,000 photos of the door hinge and study every last aspect of it. Now, that was back in 2007, 2008, at the time when we considered Chinese product to be inferior. And let's be honest, the Chinese product at that time probably was. What we're seeing now is the full evolution of that cycle where it's what was considered at that time the best in terms of engineering has been studied. It has been not just replicated or duplicated, it's probably been advanced. And we're seeing the result of that product coming onto the market now. And it's a really interesting evolutionary curve, and it's happened so quickly. And Richard, who's back here again now, has been seeing the product of that.
Yeah. Look, these guys aren't messing around. And I think the reality is that we'll see a lot more Chinese brands over the next few years. I think potentially we'll see some brands we've traditionally gotten used to leave. New Zealand is very much in the developing market camp. We've seen that with who's here today at the trip. At the show. We're not in the camp with America and that kind of stuff. We're in the camp with markets which are growing, and they consider us a great option. They've got a dedicated New Zealand team, Motor here. So, yeah. Look, anyway, let's move on to the news because there's a bit of that floating around. Now, let's start off with Eurocity being placed into voluntary liquidation. So this is a bit of a rare one. We've had a new dealer placed into liquidation. So the parent company of Napier dealerships for Audi, MG, Skoda and Volkswagen Eurocity Limited have been placed into voluntary liquidation by owner.
Having a bad day on the connection there. And I can't talk you through this one either because this is a news story to me as well. And I could read my way through it as Richard would do, but he's back again now. Where are we? There we are.
Yes.
Richard bought his VPN on Temu.
Oh, that's harsh.
Well, cost you $1.99. You never know.
Yeah. Am I back again?
Yeah, you're back. Yep.
Yeah. I thought, can you see me or is it just audio?
No, we can see you as well. It's not the best of images, but don't worry about that. Keep on talking. We want to see you. When I hear your dulcet tones, we don't need to stay.
Yes. Okay. I'm just going to switch back to that camera anyway. And can you see me now? Let's roll with that.
We can see you. We can see you good enough.
Yes. Okay. So, so he's put that into liquidation. He says that he still retains all the property on the site and will continue to conduct ourselves with integrity in this town as I have done ever since I have been here. He says a sale and purchase agreement has arrived and it will see most staff to redeployed and everyone involved will be taken care of. So I think it's a bit of a technical liquidation. I think he's sold the business. The business is separate to the land. And it'll be interesting to see who's bought it or whether it's parties related to Elmsley who've bought it. Yeah, interesting one there, but it does show there's definitely some stress going on in dealer land. And I guess particularly Napier's had a bit of a hard time over the last year or so with the floods. Interesting to see that happen. Now, in news that was always going to happen, David Sena has taken the job of chief executive at Too Cheap Cars. Too Cheap Cars co-founder David Sena will take the helm of the listed dealer from June 1, following the resignation of yet another company boss. Paul Millward has resigned from the position following David Page and Dan Buckley, who both did a similar amount of time in the role under a year and a half. That number excludes the interim holders of the position. AutoTalk had received a tip-off. Millward was to depart in mid-March, but he denied such a move to us at the time. We don't need to read David Stiasny saying how wonderful David is. He's obviously an experienced operator, but interesting to see that happen now. Considering some of the controversies in the past, be interesting to see if Stiasny and his other directors have managed to stabilise the ship a bit and stabilise David's management, and how that's going to go. Do you think it's going to go well, Graham?
Oh, who can say? In today's market, any all bets are off about how people are going to do, and that's the difficult thing. I think is that business decisions are being clouded by the market environment in general. I think so. There's stress across every level, and it would be unfair to level all of it at the feet of your chief executive, because you just can't write a market that's currently listing. However, we just seem to keep going back to the same old stories at Too Cheap, and they're usually revolving around management or management issues. And we note that it's been less than a year and a half for Paul Millward. We talked about this less than a year and a half ago when he came to the role. Is whether David Sena can apply the management techniques that are required in that role as the chief executive to both manage the buying in the business, which is what he was effectively there for, that was his role, across to the operation of a multi-site, multi-staff business that's had a lot of change to comply with the requirements of being a listed company. And that is a huge challenge. I guess watch this space.
Yeah. I think Stiasny's going to have to hold his handle on the listed company side of it. It is a very unique requirement. And I know even Eugene Williams, back when he was there, would struggle sometimes with what you could do, what you could say from that position. FSF reforms a return to common sense. We don't need to go into this too much, but the government's going to dump a whole pile of the consumer law reform and specifically exempt companies that aren't doing finance as a primary part of their business. So dealers, you no longer have to interrogate, or you're going to be able to not have to interrogate people about whether they have an Afterpay or went to McDonald's anymore. I'll throw it to you, Graham. Exciting?
Yeah, it really. I mean, this is significant, and a lot of people might laugh and say, "What are you talking about?" There's always been those particular restrictions, but finance has been holding the industry back for so long, and it's one of those classic cases where the legislation was well-meaning, and there were certainly issues of rat bag finance companies out there, what I call bucket shop lenders and predatory practices. But all that happened was it changed the playing field so far that nobody could lend money to anybody, and the bucket shop finance companies were still happily out there throwing money in a bucket and leaning it over the fence. And so nothing actually changed, and it was really frustrating. So yes, will it make a fundamental difference? Again, the market is down anyway. I think the industry would be glad for anything that gives it a 5% lift moving on forwards. And it's amazing. Once you start sitting down with people, and this is for the regulators and others out there in Wellington that watch our show, you've got no idea how demeaning it is to sit down with somebody who just wants to buy a $10,000 used car and have to go through line by line on their financials and start to analyse whether they bought the old too many coffees or too many takeaways, or what's the Afterpay for, and how long did he have the Afterpay, and did he really need the thing on the Afterpay? And it was just demeaning, and it made a lot of customers, I think, feel quite negative about the whole lending situation when they didn't have any alternative except sit there and be lectured to effectively, which is what it felt like. So yeah, I think it's a really sensible move in the right direction.
Yeah. Right, moving right along. Now, I think we touched on this last week, but I just want to point out to people the story. If you haven't read the magazine, it's now online as well. and that is Trade Me Price Restructure enrages dealers. So this was our interview with Jamie Fuller, the interim head of Trade Me Motors, just going through the changes to Trade Me pricing, their take on it. We have the fact that VIA's looking at it. Fairly big story, fairly interesting. If you hadn't read, we did discuss it last week, so we won't touch on it too much this week.
Yeah.
But if you haven't read that, that is now online, or you can still go and download the magazine for free from autotalk.co.nz. Yes. Have you digested that one anymore yet, Graham?
Yeah, I have. I've made comment all the way through too on this one. But I think it's a really important issue facing the trade. And I stress here right now, I'm not going to take sides on this. I'm not anti-Trade Me. I'm not anti-online platform marketing, but I feel it's been handled so badly from Trade Me's perspective, who are at the end of the day, they're a private company. They can charge whatever they want, whatever they want to do. But I think the way it's been handled, and like I said, timing at the very worst possible time for an industry that's really struggling with overhead and spiraling costs against a depressed marketplace. It's like, boy, are we tone deaf or what? And then the excuse is given. I'd be a lot happier if this came out and said, you know what, we're going to put the price up. Sorry, I don't like it, but we're going to put the price up. Rather than trying to couch it in all this meaningless garbage about what benefits, you know what, we're motor vehicle dealers, and I dare say we're not a silly bunch at the end of the day. We can read the room. Thank you very much. Don't sell us shit.
And if they'd raised the prices and taken away the super features, what would you have said?
Did
that rather than repackaging.
Yeah, the logic for removing super features was part of the problem, I suppose, in that there is always going to be an issue with this, no matter what the platform is. But all they've done that I can see is they've not only removed the one thing that enables you to pay a bit more money and get an advantage, they've now said pay a lot more money to get less of an advantage that you had before. But wait, it's better. Again, it's the selling of the product.
Yeah. Right, let's move along further. Now, this is a fun, interesting one. This is, again, a story from our website. Private investigator hired to find Nicholas Down. So this is in regards to, we discussed it last week, Hamilton Electric Vehicles going into liquidation. They're using a private investigator to find the owner/managing director, Nicholas Down.
Have they found him yet? We were talking about it last week. Have they found him?
Well, I think many people don't know where he is, but I don't know whether we'll go into that right now. But I have a Facebook message from Nicholas Down, which he's also posted all over Facebook under Hamilton Electric Vehicles and Hybrid Centre, which I don't know if that was the name that he was going to change to from Hamilton EV now that the market kind of needs a few more hybrids, I guess. So he quotes from our story. According to Ben Francis in a statement to AutoTalk, Down has been uncooperative. And then Nicholas goes on to say in the message, what a load of excrement.
Start.
I have emailed them twice and asked what they need. Is there any information they require? Not one reply or acknowledgement of the emails. Now they appear to be hunting for assets from a completely separate company, EV Parts Guy, New Zealand. I think one of the problems there is I suspect that there's a few businesses of Downs that are a little too close together for delineation. Interesting messaging there. I'm sure the story will continue to develop. And it's going to be a wild ride. Anyway, always happy to take you for a full interview, Nicholas. You can even come on AutoTalk Live and go live on the internet, so you can't say we misrepresented you. Right. Former Scania and executives join GM Australia and New Zealand. So General Motors has appointed Heath Walker as the new marketing director for GM Australia and New Zealand, and Carla Leach as the communications manager for GM Australia and New Zealand in February 2024 in a contract role. Leach was formerly the head of communications for Nissan Australia and previously was with Mazda and Fiat Chrysler Australia. I've known Carla a long time.
Lost you there. Your sound's gone.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Back again. Yep.
Walker was with Tesla for quite some time, and has also been with Nissan and most recently Scania.
They're saying it's an exciting time at GM as we launch the Cadillac brand and expand the GM SV offering to include the new GMC Yukon Denali in 2025. Yeah. Now, I see the story as a slightly different thing in that, and we were discussing with some journalists here in Beijing yesterday, and that this is General Motors coming back. I mean, they have done a lot of staffing up in recent months, some really major appointments. You know, Carla is a very big operator in Australia, and to see them nab her is, I think, a key point, as is Heath. I don't believe this is just about launching Cadillac and GM and a few more GM, niche products. I think we're going to start seeing them come back in and some more attempts at, I wouldn't necessarily say volume, but as a bigger player. So obviously we've seen the Cadillac Lyric being launched. Well, there's a lot of Chevrolet and other products on that Ultium platform that are potentially going to be built in right-hand drive. You're talking about some really interesting cars. The one we looked up here yesterday was the Chevrolet Equinox Electric, medium-sized electric SUV. I think this is a signal that General Motors is going to take a really hard look at New Zealand and Australia again. I suspect what needed to happen was for all the legal repercussions from Holden and some of the legacy stuff to die down, because it was a legally challenging time with the end of Holden, I believe. Now I think we're going to see them come back. So some interesting appointments there. No change to BMSB season. The Ministry for Primary Industries has reassured the used vehicle industry that there will be no change to the current heat treatment season for the BMSB, the brown marmot and stink bug. Follows unconfirmed concerns raised with the Imported Motor Vehicle Industry Association via from some members of the industry that MPI was considering an extension to the BMSB heat treatment season. In response to inquiries by VIA, MPI has confirmed that will not be the case. Following our assessment of the data and our current situation regarding BMSB, we will not be extending the season for Japanese used vehicles. So that's all there.
It's a relief.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
Here we
What
go.
happens during the season? What happens during the season? Everything's got to be properly cleaned, and you've got a heat treat, don't you?
Well, no, we'll say properly cleaned. Everything's going to be properly cleaned anyway. Separate out the BMSB.
Sorry, there's additional checks
process.
and balances, essentially.
There's additional, that's right. But there's a crossover as well. So you're not dropping any of the other required cleaning functions that a vehicle would go through. You're just adding a particular aspect that you could argue a lot of it's being duplicated, but is necessary as a requirement, BMSB season, and at an additional cost. That's all.
Okay. So here's my devil's advocate thing, is that if there has been some concerns that they need to extend the period, and there is a shoulder season where there's risk, what's worse, extending the season out slightly and continuing those checks another few weeks, or having some buggers get down there and having to freeze a couple of ships at the port again?
Well, okay, the question on your question is, don't we already have a shoulder season? And has there been any evidence? I mean, look, the industry would be behind this if it felt there was a need for it, okay? Because nobody wants ships frozen. Let's just say that right now. That's the worst case scenario. There's already a shoulder season built in. If there's evidence to suggest that that needed to be extended, then let's hear it and let's work our way through that as an industry. But I would suspect that it was a case of extending a shoulder on a shoulder without any other evidence to suggest that it was necessary.
Yeah, cool. Right. Now, Kia unveils Australian-inspired camouflage for Tasman Ute. So they've shown their Ute, as car companies so often do, but they've shown it with plastic wrapping all over it. You can see it.
I thought that was dirt. That was mud. Oh, no. Okay, all right. I thought it was mud for a second. I thought, what a great way to launch a vehicle. I would have thought an SUV or an off-roader. Just, thank me later, marketing people. Splatter it in the worst possible mud of Thompson's Track or something in the North Island, and then present it as this thing that's been pulled out of the mud and say, that's how it's going to be used, and that's what it can handle. Welcome.
So anyway, the Kia is out there at the moment. You can see those pictures with the covering on. If you also look around, there's lots of pictures coming out now of the BYD Shark, which is going to be interesting too. That's launching at Field Days. Right, let's run through these last couple quickly so I can go off to the shower before going and sitting on a bus all day. Continental Cars Volkswagen named 2023 Dealer of the Year. Volkswagen New Zealand recently gave it its dealer network for its dealer awards, and Continental Cars took out that award. There they are. Yep, good operation there. Interesting being a dealer when you're only 3 kilometers from the head office owned dealership as well. So they have to work particularly hard, I think. There's a special award there, the Jemima Award, obviously named after Jemima Gasley, where an individual team or dealership is recognised for going above and beyond for the local community. The winner was Miles Continental for its partnership with Ranui House, which is a house, a facility used for people whose children are undergoing cancer treatment. So great work from that. So if we run through the list, Dealer of the Year, Continental Cars. Passenger Dealer of the Year, WR Phillips. Commercial Dealer of the Year, Continental Cars, Volkswagen. So hang on, a city dealership is the best-selling commercial brand thing. I guess it's vans rather than utes.
Vans.
Mostly. So,
It's vans, yeah.
Yeah. Passenger Sales Department of the Year, Volkswagen Northland. Commercial Sales Department of the Year, Volkswagen Northland. We won't run through them all. You can read them all there.
There's a lot there, Richard. That's a long list. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Everyone, you get a prize. You get a prize. Everyone gets a prize.
Another quick one. Brockhoff appointed GM of Mini Australia and New Zealand. The BMW Group has appointed Alexander Brockhoff as the new general manager for Mini Australia and New Zealand, effective May 24. He replaces Matt Schmidt, who will move into the BMW sales general manager role in Australia. Brockhoff brings 18 years of experience with the BMW Group to his new role. He doesn't look old enough to have 18 years experience at the job. He is started in 2006 in the German market, relocated to Australia in 2007 with BMW Financial Services. Yeah, interesting time for Mini. They're basically getting a whole new range in the next 6 months, starting this week with the new Countryman. A lot of electrification, but they've still got a few petrol motors in there.
I've got to say, I've always liked the somewhat quirky and innovative approach towards marketing as well. I mean, irrespective of the vehicle itself, I think Mini have been very smart in the way they presented their products to market here in New Zealand. And let's hope there's a continuation of that approach going forward with the new leadership.
Yeah, they also build some really innovative dealerships. Go have a look around that Mini garage in Auckland. It's an interesting place. Lastly, Hydrogen Express Refueler opens in Auckland. So there is now a hydrogen. I think there's actually now two officially this week because two companies launched them in the same week. Two hydrogen refueling stations in South Auckland and Wiri. If I run through this, New Zealand has green hydrogen producer Halcyon has opened the country's first green hydrogen fast refueling station at Wiri, South Auckland. I refuse to use the term green for hydrogen. It's something. We'll see. We're going to analyse where it comes from. The refueler, manufactured by H2H Energy, installed in partnership with MB Century and Becker, is located on the Core Gas site on Roscommon Road. In 2021, Halcyon, a 50-50 joint venture between the Tuaropaki Trust and Obayashi Corporation of Japan, opened New Zealand's first green hydrogen production facility at Mokai Geothermal Power Plant northwest of Taupo. The facility can produce 180 tonnes of green hydrogen per year using electricity generated by the Tuaropaki Power Company. So an interesting partnership there. Obviously, there's a showing there. They've got a Mirai. There's some hydrogen buses floating around. I think that Herring Energy also opened a station focused on filling trucks this week. So, yeah, hydrogen is around. I think it's definitely got its places in the market in the heavy transport space. I guess it's exciting for Hyundai and Toyota. They've got some hydrogen cars in New Zealand, but I think they're a lot of the time filling basically off bottled gas. And they can now just go and pull up to a pump and, squeeze highly compressed, highly cold hydrogen into a vehicle. For anyone who says, filling up a hydrogen car is as easy as filling up a petrol car, little secret, it ain't. But it's still great that we've got those facilities here because, you don't want to rule out any options at this stage. I think it's still wide open as to what the history is going to be.
Let's not get too sniffy just yet.
Yeah, I wasn't very open to the possibility. Very open to the possibility. I've driven a couple of hydrogen cars, and they are, they've got some interesting tech in them. I think definitely hydrogen for trucks. I think for New Zealand, hydrogen for trucks makes so much sense. Look, that is the news for this week. I am going to go for a bit of a tour around Beijing. You're probably going to go for a bit of a tour around the yard in West Auckland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exciting days here. I think the weather looks like it's about the same between the two of us. Actually, it has been
Well, it's smoggy out there. It is very smoggy.
mm,
So yes, very smoky. I think I can see probably about kilometre and a half, and then that's it.
it's about as much as we can see right now in the mist as well. Don't worry. Look, if you're out there in the trade, I was going to say, don't feel bad. Everyone's having a bit of a tough time if it runs. There's a lot of negative stories out there in the media about every aspect of retail. So we all know that retail's really struggling across anything, whether it's people that make my coffee in the morning through to people like us that sell motor vehicles. But this is the thing. We've just got to keep on plugging away, doing what we do really well, and if not a bit better, because it is tough. And I do sympathise with our entire trade. But it's not all over yet either. So let's not throw everything away as we move on forward. We just got to keep on trundling away, and we'll get through this. But it's been a tough month for sure.
Yes, and if you want to be cheered up, if you want to go and learn something that can help your business, go to autotalk.co.nz/live. Week and a half to AutoTalk Live. We are pretty much sold out of tables, but we are doing a little bit of reshuffling to see if we can make some more. Plenty of theatre seats left, or talk to your friendly finance company rep or importer company rep and say, hey, have you guys got a table at AutoTalk Live? Have you got a seat left that I could have? Because who knows, they might have one available to you. But it's going to be really good.
But don't all of you come at once, because I want to have a bit of a competitive edge because I'm going, and you may not be. So those of us that are going want to have a bit of a competitive advantage out of being at this event compared to those that think, I'll do it myself, thanks.
I saw one post in a dealer group with someone saying they were going along because they figured there'd be Trade Me people there and they could talk to them. Fair call, but don't go along with a negative intent like that. This is a positive day, and it's going to be really good. We do have one announcement. We'll put it more out next Monday, and that unfortunately Neeraj Lala's had to step out of the day due to logistics. But Warren Wilmot's replacing him, and Warren's an interesting guy behind the microphone. So he's going to be a bit of fun for that as well. So it is going to be awesome. I'm super happy with how it's come together, and really excited about it. Anyway, we'll catch everyone next week when I'm back in New Zealand, hopefully. If they don't catch me with my VPN for the AutoTalk weekly wrap.